Hello and welcome to Sleep is My Waking Passion, the podcast where we get real about sleep and how it shapes your life. I'm Dr. Allison Cole, a triple-boarded pulmonary critical care and sleep medicine physician who's learned to thrive despite having chronic insomnia. And now I'm here to help you do the same.
Hello, everyone. I'm back. Welcome to season 6 of the Sleep is My Waking Passion podcast. You know who I am. I'm your host, Dr. Allison Cole. And today I am joined by a very special guest, Haley Wall. Hello, welcome, Haley.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So guys, I wanted to pause before you all go, all right, who's Haley Wall? Why should I be listening to this podcast? Haley has a condition called idiopathic hypersomnia. Please do not shut the podcast off because you're like, what the heck are you talking about? This is irrelevant to me. I want you to learn about a rare disease that, like dollars to donuts, there's probably someone you've heard of, someone in your life, maybe even someone in your family or in your inner friend circle who suffers with what Haley has, but you don't know it. They're just the excessively sleepy friend that needs to sleep all the time, never feels refreshed, terrible time waking up in the morning despite like 10 plus hours of sleep sometimes. That's what this condition is. When we call something idiopathic, it automatically turns people off. And I feel like in the medical community, it's just a way for us to say, we're not quite sure why this person has this condition, so we call it idiopathic. But it makes it sound really fancy. It's idiopathic hypersomnia. Too sleepy. We're not quite sure the exact pathophysiology. I wanted Haley to share her experience with you, because the bottom line is, if you recognize this, knowing to tell that relative of yours, that friend of yours, whomever, that they should seek out a sleep specialist, quite literally may save a life. And at the very least, change the quality. So I had to make a pause there and say that. And then I'm going to introduce Haley because she's got a really cool story. So thank you for bearing with me, Haley. But I didn't want to leave out that intro. I don't.
That's important.
Hanging up. Turn to it now.
Please don't.
Let's talk about this. So anybody who doesn't know Haley, if you're on TikTok, if you're on Insta, she is a social media darling. You're what, 25 now?
Yes.
She knows all this stuff, right? Perimenopausal lady talking to a young lady. And you've accomplished so much in your life. So what you have been doing is really important. Go follow her. She's the Sleepy OT on social media, like I said, and she's going to share her journey with us. She has been public about sharing her journey with what I call IH, idiopathic hypersomnia, to raise awareness about this disease process, to connect with others, and she also offers practical tips from her occupational therapy background to help manage life with this disorder. And I'm going to be asking you about that, Haley, because you've got some really good pearls that people should know about. She also collaborates with the Hypersomnia Foundation on many educational initiatives. She's even met with the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. Super cool. She most recently received the Hypersomnia Foundation's 2024 Community Advocate Award. And her advocacy includes IH-focused continuing medical education programs. She just recently finished a virtual IH clinic. She's been featured in a documentary by that very same company, and you could find her link on Linktree. It's in her Instagram profile, so check it out. She's a graduate of Project Sleep's Rising Voices program, and she has a passion to share her story, but we hope to help raise more awareness and decrease the gap, the time between symptom onset and diagnosis. We're talking years of suffering, people, okay? In her work as an occupational therapist, she integrates her lived experience to provide sleep education and promote better sleep for her clients. Woo, that's a mouthful. Every word is deserved. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Haley, how do you want to start this? Because at the end of the day, I think people really need to understand like why you even went on this journey to talk about this and what living with IH is really all about. So maybe I'll have you take it away and just kind of describe like maybe what your story is. My understanding is you were quite young when you got diagnosed, and all the people that I've ever diagnosed, I practice with adults, right? So I'm seeing them at an older age. I would love to hear what you initially felt as a kid, what happened. So any parents listening out there, they might think, hey, do I need to be worried about this for my child?
Absolutely. I got a diagnosis when I was 18 years old, which I can say is definitely a lot earlier than most people get their diagnosis. I was born and raised in Massachusetts. I was the only child until I was 5 years old. And then my parents brought home 2 little babies. And so I am the oldest of 3. My brother and sister, I was just the happiest little 5-year-old when they came home. Still am to this day. Love and adore them with my whole being. And growing up, everything was okay. And then I turned 8 years old. When I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with as a type 1 diabetic. So from a very, very early age, I was thrown into having to be very aware of my body, of different things that were going on. And I had to mature very quickly in terms of knowing how to count carbs, knowing how to eat healthy, and all those different things. So I was diagnosed. I had a very strong support system with my family and my medical team. And as I got older, I would say around 12 or 13 years old is when my first documented in my medical record says she just feels really tired. And again, at that point, that's what I thought it was. I thought I was just really tired. So it was kind of just chalked up to be my diabetes, anxiety, and depression. At that point in my life, I tried to make as many lifestyle changes as I could, be healthy, active, and that's exactly how I was growing up. I played a bunch of sports, I loved to dance, and nothing seemed to help me. I always felt so incredibly tired. And I didn't understand it. I wasn't not sleeping. I was sleeping excessive amounts of time. And I would say my junior to senior year in high school is when I started noticing that I could not get through the day without taking a nap. So even with an 8, 9, 10-hour sleep period at night, I could not get through the day after school without getting home and taking a nap. I also was babysitting some kids after school some days, and I'd fall asleep on their couch when I got there, and I'd wake up to them walking in the door, and they would actually say to me, "You look really tired. Like, do you want to go take a nap?" I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so embarrassing. Like, I'm 16, 17 years old right now. I should not be this tired.
I just wanted to pause and reflect.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important for any listener out there who especially has a teenage child. I would say that the estimates for teenagers, it's scary how many teenagers are actually chronically sleep deprived. We're talking in the order of over 70%, in some states it may be as close to 80%, right? So really, when you think about it, the most common complaint from a teenager, the usual reason is because they're simply not getting enough. That was not you. And I think that's a clear distinction because most teenagers may have what we call a delayed sleep phase. So they may not really want to go to sleep till the midnight, but then they got to be up. Some people like 6 o'clock in the morning to make it for their bus. And then there's school activities and responsibilities and trying to get to college and all the things that, we're sort of brought up to sort of respect as being the next steps in our evolution, in our growth. And yet here you are. It sounds like you never really had an issue when it was lights out, like you were ready to go to sleep. So when you were a teenager, can you just walk us through like when you really started noticing what was your sleep pattern like? And then how did that evolve into really needing naps on top of that? I'm curious, like what time?
Sure.
How did you find yourself getting up? That's right.
I think it's hard to remember exactly. It's all a little bit fuzzy, but I do remember in high school, probably my senior year is when I'd say it started getting worse for me. I would come home from school, immediately take a nap for upwards of 2 to 3 hours, wake up, eat, try to get as much homework done as I could, and then go back to bed. So any time after school was sleeping or schoolwork and then sleeping again. I want to say at 9 p.m. every night I was going to sleep, and I fell asleep immediately. And, even in class, it was hard to keep my eyes open for, if we were watching a movie in class, lights are off, your eyelids just start getting super heavy, and it's completely out of my control. Those times, again, I just always chalked it up to, I'm a busy kid, I'm doing a bunch of things, and anxiety, depression, diabetes, that's what it is. So the year that I entered my freshman year of college is when I actually had my eyes wide open to see, wow, what's happening? This can't just be that I'm this busy 18-year-old girl now trying to, struggle to stay awake while establishing herself as a newly independent girl moving out of her parents' house for the first time. Like this was an excessive, overwhelming feeling of I need to sleep. And again, moving into college, I was in a double room with a girl I'd never met before. And soon we developed a really strong friendship. Once that happened, she started bringing things up to me and say, why do you sleep so much? You are so tired all the time. I was turning down opportunities to go hang out with my friends after classes because I needed to sleep, and having to wake up excessively early so that I felt functioning enough to go to class. And everything was 10 times harder than it seemed to appear for everybody else around me, all my friends, all my peers. So, the more that she started bringing things up to me, I was like, this is what my doctors told me. I'm just busy. I guess it's normal. And she's like, no, that's not normal. So
God bless her.
Yeah,
really astute for an another 18-year-old lady to be like, hey man, did you think that maybe this isn't so okay?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it was what often happens that leads to the delay in diagnosis, which is you always find a reason for why you're tired. It's always something else. And even we as doctors can be guilty of that. Like, oh, well, this fits in with this, and you're a teenager. And I bet you, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I wonder, when you did visit the doctor, I bet you it wasn't the first thing that came to mind. It probably was like, what are my diabetes numbers? All the other things that they check. And then it's almost like sleep becomes the afterthought in that conversation because you only have so many minutes.
Yeah.
I've got to move on.
Absolutely.
Honestly, you have wow. I mean, kudos to that roommate of yours. I hope y'all are still friends.
She is still my best friend. Shout out to Julia. She'll be watching this, I know, but
I want to tell you that that's really huge. And that's one of the reasons that we do this is specifically to get people who may not have a medical background to think about these things, because ultimately it's that advocacy, either be it a self-advocacy or you're advocating for someone that you care about, that really gets them where they need to go.
She has played a massive role in who I am today and where I am today. I am so incredibly grateful for her. We will be forever friends. She is my soul sister. So conversations with her opened my eyes in a way that I had not actually ever looked at it before. I had never lived in a room that was so tight quarters, or if I reached my hand across the room and she reached her hand from her bed, we could touch hands. Like, we were in very close quarters. So she was seeing things that nobody really had ever seen, even though I was living with my siblings and parents growing up. After all those conversations with her is when I went back to my primary care and said, this has got to be something more. My quality of life is decreasing. Everything is incredibly hard. My education, thankfully, I was able to actually keep my grades up pretty well, but it was taking me 5 times as long to get a homework assignment done than my roommate or from someone else, and taking me probably 10 times longer to study something because my brain just wasn't in it all the time. And now I know that's brain fog, but the sleeping too, it was such, I was spending so much time sleeping that I was missing out on being a typical 18-year-old girl enjoying her freshman year of college. And so once I got to telling my primary care again, this has got to be something more, I got that referral to a sleep specialist and then had the overnight and daytime sleep study. And as you know, that whole comprehensive check of everything else, blood work, health, everything was perfectly normal. My overnight sleep study was perfectly normal. There was no disruptions, no sign of sleep apnea, no sign of restless leg syndrome. And the MSLT, the daytime nap study, came back that I had fallen asleep within, I believe it was 4.6 minutes for every single nap. So after sleeping a full night's sleep, non-disrupted, I was still able to fall asleep very quickly for 5 naps in that study.
So Haley, what she's mentioning here, what she's talking about is a polysomnogram, which is what an overnight typical in-laboratory sleep study is. And then she's talking about a multiple sleep latency test. And that basically means what she's describing is you stay and they actually give you opportunity to nap. Now, remember, she's been sleeping all night and then she's being given 5 nap opportunities that are like 20 minutes each. And she's falling asleep, if you look at the mean, so the average of all those, within less than 5 minutes. The gray area is 8 to 12 minutes, and that's debatable depending on the literature that you read. But the bottom line is, if you can do that, oh, there is something going on. And Haley, you also are doing a very important educational point, which is pointing out there wasn't another sleep disorder that could explain this.
Right. Right. And when I sat down with my doctor after, the sleep study had been completed to see what it said, I, first of all, have never heard of the term idiopathic hypersomnia. I had very vaguely heard of narcolepsy. And so, if I had that hit REM sleep within 2 or more of those naps, it would have been considered narcolepsy, but I didn't hit REM in any of them. So I think they did a good job explaining that to me, that it was, it could have been narcolepsy, but because of that, it wasn't. And idiopathic hypersomnia is what my diagnosis was. And again, it's kind of confusing to hear something you've never heard about in your life, and then to be told, we don't know why. It does.
I didn't. Oh, what's that? That sounds like...
Yeah. And then, yeah, it absolutely does. To be told, we don't know why you are so sleepy all the time, but there are some treatment options we can give a try. And, that's about it. At the point of my diagnosis, there were no FDA-approved medications, and that was also confusing to me. But now there's one, and it is definitely a roller coaster trying to navigate medications, not just with insurance companies, but also because in my personal experience, I don't feel like it's actually helping much. I'm staying awake more during the day, but my brain doesn't function very clearly all the time, and I still can fall asleep after taking a stimulant. It's a constant battle of, okay, what next? And you can feel defeated, but I think that's what's so important in my journey has been being able to have open communication with my provider to work with me and say, okay, this isn't working. What can we try next? Can we try medication that maybe you had before that worked, but stopped working now because it's been a couple of years? It's been really great to have a good partner in my healthcare team when it comes to IH.
Another amazing point. There's a lot of amazing points here, but anybody who's a healthcare practitioner listening to this is why so many of us went into medicine. Let us not be pummeled down by insurances not cooperating and all the barriers that we have. Let's really focus on listening to our patients, because that connection can make the difference in the world. Okay? That and social connection, yes. But we really need to be partners with our patients, okay? I wanted to ask you, you are absolutely correct. Haley knows her stuff. There is one FDA-approved medication that truly has an indication for idiopathic hypersomnia. It's in the oxybate category. I'm not going to get into specifics with that. I'm sure y'all can look that up if you're interested. And then there's an assortment of stimulants. There are wake-promoting agents that are often used off-label. We used to use modafinil has some data for it. Modafinil, I've had a very hard time getting approved for my patients because they're like, well, there's not anything specific to IH, even though I used it in fellowship. I'm sorry I prescribed this medication and it helps a little. I don't have a cure here. Let me do something. And it's generic and not expensive. And I would get a no. And then you have your just pure like amphetamine-based type stimulants, which really do have some gnarly side effects, just in terms of so many mood changes, the crash, people's eating habits get off. Like it's not a fun existence to have to take these. It's interesting that you mentioned that you felt like the medications help a little bit, because I have heard that from a lot of patients. Like, they're like, but it's not quite great. It's better, but it's not quite great. Do you happen to do more than one medication? That's also an issue that's been raised by some of my friends who have said that insurance plans are now kind of poo-pooing the notion of multiple medications, either for narcolepsy or for idiopathic hypersomnia. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You got it. They work differently. We're not just like throwing on more and more stimulants. There's a cap to that. We've got to use something else. So do you use sort of a combination of some sort of a wake promoting or stimulant agent coupled with oxybate and, for your management? Has that been what you've been doing?
So I do not take the oxybate. It has been highly recommended to me. I think in my position, being a type 1 diabetic, it's also very scary for me. And I don't think it is the best choice for me in this moment, because my diabetes has been in the best control it's ever been in my life over the last 2 years, but I'm still scared of not waking up to a low blood sugar. If I have a low blood sugar, because my body will wake me up if something is off balance.
Such a fantastic point. I've never treated anyone who had type 1 diabetes and IH before. That is a terrific point. And it also highlights, again, anybody listening here, it's an individual decision. And the only way you come up with a good conclusion that works for your patient is to have that dialogue. Haley, do. Boy, I wanted to know, because I know you've been posting some stuff on social, so I wanted to ask about it. You have some really practical tips to help people, and anyone who's listening, healthcare provider, regular person just trying to learn more about sleep. This applies to any sleep disorder that makes you feel sleepy. But she has some really sage advice for anyone who is struggling with sleep. So can you share maybe a tip or two for the listeners as we wrap up?
Absolutely. When I graduated and I passed my board exams to become a certified occupational therapist, I was kind of baffled that there was really nothing out there we do practice with patients who have insomnia and sometimes with people who have sleep apnea, but there was nothing out there really for central disorders of hypersomnolence. And, going through school and learning all these different strategies that, relate to the nervous system, whether it be calming, whether they be alerting, I was kind of surprised that nobody had really talked about them before. So one thing that I have found really helpful in my journey in managing my day-to-day is movement and, planning out different points in the day to be a little bit more active when I know that I'm going to be a little bit more sleepy, because there definitely are points in the day that I know I do not do well. So whether that be just pacing around or, jumping up and down a little bit, those are alerting agents to my nervous system. And, that has been helpful. I've also found a lot of other strategies targeting the sensory systems to be beneficial for me, being crunchy snacks, sour candies, sour spray, really cold drinks, cold temperatures. Try to think if there's anything else specifically. Gum, anything that, I have learned in my OT education to be alerting, I have tried it.
One trick with idiopathic hypersomnia that's different than narcolepsy is oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes patients who have narcolepsy may feel a bit better after a nap. Do you feel better? Because a lot of people with IH don't. Like they take a nap and they're like, I still don't feel great.
Yeah, no. And if I can push through one of those sleep attack waves is what I refer them to, I will. I will do anything I possibly can not to take a nap because it makes me feel worse after I wake up. And trying to break out of that sleep inertia takes a ridiculously long time. I'm stuck in this, haze of really poor brain fog and just this whole body feeling of exactly that, like, oh, I can't. It takes more functional hours away from me in the day if I choose to take a nap. Again, sometimes it's not a choice, but if I can do something to help me break out of it, I'm going to do that.
That's really important, guys. So if you know anybody out there who's kind of describing this, I mean, it's just a full night's sleep and you just feel horrible and foggy and you're just not right. And Hickory's managed to become an occupational therapist and work while feeling this way. So thank you for that. Just thank you for your service. Talk to me as we wrap up one final point, because I think it is so, so huge. And again, I'm touching on something that universally impacts any of us, regardless of whether we have a sleep disorder, which is mindset. I mean, to accomplish what you have accomplished, going up against, chronic, at this point, we can't fix them, incurable diseases that we can manage. I mean, both the type 1 as well as the IH. You are an incredibly resilient person. What is your secret sauce? How are you capable of maintaining this, this mindset of pushing forward?
I can pretty much give that to the people I have surrounded myself with. If I did not have my family and my friends giving me that external support and, help show me, you are capable of anything you want to do, even if it is hard, I don't think I would be where I am today. So I really owe so much to them. And, it's always, I always say I'm a work in progress. I'm always learning. And it's not easy every day. But I have been trying to be more mindful and giving myself more grace because everybody else in my life gives that to me. And I am usually my own hardest critic. So I may always look like I have everything together, but that's not always the case. And having a community of people, just entering this community in the sleep disorder world really has been so beneficial to be able to talk to someone else with the same condition and they completely get it. They're like, oh, I hear you. And, feeling that understood has given me something I didn't know that I needed until I had kind of jumped into it. And I'm so, so incredibly grateful for everyone who has followed me on my social media accounts, reached out to me. I've made really great friendships with people through my social media accounts who have IH. I went to the Beyond Sleepy conference this year. I actually met people in person, which I never had before, with IH and narcolepsy and other sleep disorders. So you walk into a room of people and you feel like family immediately. It's no judgment anywhere. And it was the most wonderful experience. And I cannot wait to go back this coming year. But yes, I think it takes a certain mindset in myself, but I owe a lot to where I am today to my family and my friends helping me get there.
you are seeing the blessings. You're seeing the silver light. That's huge. So congrats.
Thank you.
I will include some links to the Hypersomnia Foundation, Project Sleep, Wake Up Narcolepsy, anything I can think of. I will try to add that so that anybody who's listening, you can go and learn more about these sleep disorders. Especially if you're concerned that there's somebody in your life who could use the help. All right, Haley, I really appreciate your time. I can't wait to showcase this episode. Thank you for being a part of this really fun journey for me. And stay tuned for more.
Struggling with sleep? Dr. Cole is here to help. Whether you need a comprehensive sleep coaching program, suspect you have sleep apnea, or simply seeking a second opinion, she's available for consultation in New Jersey, New York, California, and Georgia, with more states coming soon. Schedule your free 10-minute review of services today to find out which visit is right for you at AskTheSleepMD.com and start your journey to better sleep with a trusted sleep expert.
Please be advised that the Sleep is My Waking Passion podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider for personalized guidance. For my full disclaimer, please visit AskTheSleepMD.com. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my free newsletter. Sweet dreams and happy listening.